Okay.
All right, let's go big here so people can see us, or a little bit bigger. I am a Dungeon Master Roy with Dark Alchemy, and we are interviewing today Matt the Bat. Matt, how do you say your last name? I didn't ask you that.
Oh, no problem. Last name is Plotecher.
Okay, and Matt's a longtime Dungeon Master, and he wrote an adventure on wild magic, and you will be presenting at Long Island Tabletop this coming weekend. That's going to be the 5th and 6th at the Cradle of Aviation. Why don't you tell me how you started in D&D, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So popular thing I've seen on like various subreddits and that kind of stuff in terms of when people talk about like, trying to flex their muscles about like when they started. I was part of that group that started back in the 80s, back in like the red box, the Dungeons and Dragons basic set, and then the blue box, the green box, the whole 9 yards.
You got time on the job. You've been there.
Yeah, exactly. So it was really wonderful in terms of actually like being part of this thing before it became really popular, which of course was right around 5th edition when that one came out, and that became like much more mainstream. But yeah, so back then it was all about the immortal set getting to be an actual immortal and getting into the advanced Dungeons and Dragons, because they had the Dungeons and Dragons and the advanced Dungeons and Dragons at the same time.
Yeah.
And then of course I still remember when 2nd edition came out. And that was in the Dungeons and Dragons community, just with the people that you knew, that was like a huge event. Everybody was so excited about it. The way they handled it. Yeah. Proficiencies, THAC0.
In the box.
Yeah. That was, and you're right. It was the books then. And then second edition is really where I sank my teeth into it, because that's, the early days was very like hit and miss. And that's when you're still kind of like learning how you play it. And you're doing all sorts of weird, crazy stuff that, doesn't really deal with the adventure directly, but you're just having fun. And then 2nd edition is really when started to get into like more of the mechanics and the rules and working with the team, working with the group as a whole. And also with all of those, if you remember all those source books that they put out, like the Complete Fighter's Handbook, the Complete Ranger's Handbook.
Yeah, that was the brown cover ones, right?
Exactly. The soft cover brown cover ones. Yeah,
those are good books.
Mm-hmm.
And there was some blue ones too. There was the guide to weapons, the guide to castles, and they had a lot of good information, a lot of good historical.
I think the blue ones, I could be completely wrong on this, but I think the blue ones were colored that because those were more for like Dungeon Master resources. Because I remember one of the books that my roommate had, he actually bought all the books, which was great, so I didn't have to. I was able to read his. But one of them was the Complete Villain's Handbook, where they go through like how to actually create like an actual villain that your characters can like interact with long over time, and the reasoning behind it, as well as like the Complete World Building Handbook, like all this stuff that we take for granted these days, like with all the YouTube videos and the streams like yours. Back then, there wasn't any of that stuff, and you really had to rely on those books when they came out, so they were very popular for that.
Now, how long have you been actually game mastering, in the sense that, like, so did you start as a player? Were you the game master right away when you had
No. I definitely started. I was introduced to it by a friend, and so he was kind of like the game master. It was funny though, because it was just the two of us. So like it was me, but also he had like 2 or 3 of his own NPCs that he ran as his own character. So I was kind of like along for the ride in that kind of sense. But we were like 8 or 9, so who cares? But so I played for a bit. And I first started running it in when I got into college in the 2nd edition, because at that point we were like well enough like into it and understood how all the rules worked.
And then you could start to get a group of people in college, actually more than 1 or 2 other people wanted to play.
That's the other thing too. Yeah, like the schedules were a lot easier to coordinate at that point, because everybody was sort of like going to school, or they might have had some part-time jobs, but they were very set schedules. There wasn't much of.
You know what's funny about that? Like, you go to college, and I played in college also. I've been playing since I'm like 11 or 12. But you go to college and you find people to play, and you spend all this time studying, reading, doing math and science and English, And then what do you do as a hobby? You pick up more books. You do more math. Like really?
More math, yeah.
Like, geez, I have to read the Dungeon Master Guide. That's like taking a semester course within itself. Stuff. It's just funny the type of people that it attracts.
And just to build on that point is that one of my favorite campaign setting. Another reason why I got so into second edition is they had all those great campaign settings. I love Planescape. Planescape was fantastic for me, and like there's so much like historical things about religion and philosophy in there, and like again, so it's just you're picking up and you're learning about utilitarianism, and you're learning about like Yasgard and all the other like other outer planes. It's like, oh, it all starts to fit now. It all starts to make sense. So
yeah. I mean, you're probably in a smaller subset of people who enjoyed it or had access to it or actually played it. I feel like a lot of people were a little intimidated by the leaving the planet and manual planes and all the other things. But now it's kind of like all folded in. You can go into the 9 helps with Avernus and the stuff. But yeah, the manual planes and that was a pretty cool thing. So this weekend we have the Long Island Tabletop up here, April 5th and 6th. What are you running? What edition are you running there? How many games you're running? And tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm really excited because this is actually the first time I'm going to the expo. So I'm really excited about that. You
never ran there before?
No. This is the first time I've had a chance to go there. I was just looking into. I've been really wanting to push my dungeon mastering as more as a profession, side profession along those lines. And so I really started doing more research into it. It's like, oh, there's a spot that's right here in Long Island that I can go ahead and actually get into. And then, they're looking for people to go ahead and host some of the games. I'd love to do that. So I'll be doing it's going to be 2014 5th edition rules.
Okay.
And it's going to be a adventure that I actually wrote that was included with a supplement that I wrote that was funded through Kickstarter called the Vade Mecum for aspiring practitioners of wild magic. And yes, thank you. And it's, basically this was like in 2014, this was a very expanded subset of rules in terms of to make wild magic recapture the flavor that I felt was kind of missing from its original introduction in, no surprise, second edition.
Yeah. Let me see if I can just pull up something here. I'm going to share a screen here, and let's just look at. So this is the Wild Magic Sorcery in 2024. I guess it was in 2014 also, and so it looks like only a sorcerer can really do the wild magic. I don't think the wizard can. I was trying to read. I'm pretty up on everything, but you can't know every little trend.
Oh yeah. It's gonna 2024. Like I've been reading through it, but there's so much to it that it's very similar to 2014, but there's enough differences that it's going to take a while to like get it to be where it's second nature.
So the wild magic here is a sorcerer thing. They can have a wild magic surge. You have some effects. They have a pretty cool chart here. It's a wild magic surge table, 1 to 100. And I did have a chance to look at your book, and you Matt, you put a lot of tables in here. I mean, your wild magic surges. I mean, you just have pages and pages, depending on your level. You have general, and you actually broke it down into each like wizarding subclass or a spell type: abjuration, conjuring. So, I mean, did you do all this yourself? How long did it take to make up these tables?
It took the book was kind of in progress before I actually did the final push for the Kickstarter on it. And that was the main reason why I was basically looking for a little bit of extra money to basically help fund some of the artwork and put in place of it. But one of the things I included in the Kickstarter was that people at a certain tier could suggest a wild search. And so there was probably like around, I'd say like at least 100, 200 people that went ahead and actually added in their own personal wild surges to the table. Wow. But I wrote the bulk of it beyond that. The good news is that in a lot of cases, you can actually take like one wild surge and you can actually go ahead and make it applicable in several different instances. Like one thing I realized is that you can have it affect a certain effect would affect just the caster on one roll, but later on it could affect the target on a different roll. So like there are certain ways that you didn't have to create like a brand new effect for every single one. But to your point, I did go ahead and try to really work on each table. Each spell type, like evocation or divination, has wild surges that are sort of tailored to that. So like if you're casting a divination spell, you're not going to actually release a fireball. It's going to be something closer to the divination school of magic.
I saw that. I was actually reading the one wild surge is the caster has to tell the truth for like 24 hours, something like that. And can't refuse questions. So, the wild surge, you find it out and you're like, hey, I know, we got through this adventure. We killed the goblins. And last week when, you said you didn't pocket that gold coin or that ring. Did you really do that?
Yeah.
And you guys got to tell the truth. So that's kind of
and that's one of the things I loved about like the original table out of the Tome of Magic is when they first introduced the whole idea of wild magic in second edition. And one of the things I really enjoyed about that one, and they did include that in for a number of the surges within the current wild magic table, is some of them they're just fun. They're just opportunities for role play, opportunities for enjoyment. One that went off in my campaign that I thought was absolutely hilarious is that the characters got the one, and I can't remember the exact wording of it, but it was like, I think it was divination, where the caster suddenly has in their mind the perfect recipe for the most delicious cake ever made, but it's only there for like 1 week. And so the characters went ahead and actually tried to find the ingredients to make this cake before they forgot what it was.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that creates a role playing hook. You're in the middle of an adventure. You're like, we got to find flour in a bakery. It's like, that's awesome. I can appreciate that too. I have in my current campaign we're playing called the Age of Secrets. It's in our own world called Erendor. I have a diviner mage, and I rolled a 2d20 at the beginning of each adventure or each long rest, and I can use those dice. But certain things come up. The dungeon master will feed me like a little note for the day or the adventure. Like you've seen a little glimpse of the future, and I try to like announce it and work it in. It usually backfires on me. So to see this list too, I might just be reading through his list and try to pull some of that stuff out.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So the subclasses here, like it basically says, anybody can do divine magic. So there's a cleric, or the caster, right? A cleric has divine chaos. The sorcerer has wild magic. The warlock is anthropotic. Anthropotic. Okay. Yeah.
I'm mispronouncing that, but
the wizard has wild magic. And I didn't really read too much about this. Can you just tell me what the free caster is? Kind of what that is?
The free casters is the term that I made up basically basically what I did was I took the idea of wild magic and kind of created its own little like group for that, so that if you're a cleric, a wizard, a warlock, or a wizard, you can go ahead and you're all still kind of like free casters if you're using wild magic. So it's almost a little bit of like a background, but not entirely. It's just the idea that this way it's all about nomenclature. So that way, like later on when I'm talking about certain like wild surges or certain spells or certain magical items, I can use the term free caster, and that I'm referring to people who cast wild magic.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. And there's a table here. Well, actually, I did like the hazmat expert. Expert. I thought that was kind of cool. That seems like a cool background. The experimenter. But there was another table here. You can have, if I read it right, I'm not sure what page it's on.
Are you looking for the level variation?
No, some feedback, like you can get damaged or something like that. You take hit dice damage.
That's the level variation one. That's earlier in the front there, a little bit earlier.
Yes, yeah.
That right there. That's
it. Table.
Yeah.
So what's going on with that?
So this was a nod / homage to the original. One of the things about the original wild magic that I enjoyed so much was that when you cast a spell, it could actually cast at a higher level sometimes, as well as setting off a wild surge. So like on this table here, there's two things that are going on. The first one is that if you would, every time you would cast a spell that had a higher level to it, or a spell slot to it, you would roll a d20, and if you got a blue result, if it came up blue in those cases, that means that a wild surge happened. But the second thing is that if you look like at the top row there, you can see that if you rolled a 18 or 19, you got a +1. That means that if you try to cast Magic Missile and you roll a 19, you would actually cast it at level 2 for free. So that's the good thing. Like you can cast more. The spell could get more powerful just by nature of using the wild magic.
Well, let's take a fireball. Everybody loves fireball, right? That's
level
3.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I'm level 3 and I drop a 20. Am I a level 6 or am I level?
If you're caster level 1 and you drop a 20, then it's level 5 because it's
caster level 3. Oh no, actually I have to be cast level a fireball. I guess at level 4, I get third level spells. So
when I refer caster level, right? The caster level would be like level, was it 4? I think you're right. Yeah. So you cast at level 4. That +3 then is the level of the spell, which is level 3 spell. So that would be plus 3. But it would go off as if you had cast it with a level 6 spell slot.
Wow, that might do too much damage. You might be surprised,
Now
you're doing
Yeah, the flip side of that is if you roll low, you take hit die damage. So you would actually start losing hit die. And then if you learn out of hit die, then you would lose like spell slots and you go into like exhaustion levels. So the point of that is, and the main reason for that is because I didn't want it to be like, I didn't want to get into the mechanics of trying to figure out like, okay, so if I cast a fireball at level 3 and I lose a level, what does that mean? You can't cast the spiral at level 2. So instead, basically, it's just sort of like, it's taking, the way I explain it in there is that it's taking more energy out of you to cast a spell than it normally does. So normally you cast at level 3, but when you get a lower result, you didn't quite wrangle the wild magic correctly, and so it took more energy out of you, so you lost a hit die or 2 hit die or whatever.
Okay, I like it. That's a good way to manage it. It does show some danger to the wild magic in addition to the surges.
Yeah.
And now you said, I don't know, I want to scroll faster to this. You said you're running the adventure that's in the back of this book, and that was part of the Kickstarter?
Yeah. So that was originally was like, okay, if I can get enough money for this particular amount, we're going to go ahead and we're going to build out the actual book. And if I get a little bit more, then I'll include a adventure that deals with wild magic in it. So this adventure in the back of the book, which is called Don't Mind If I Do, is based off of that. And it is a short, like 1 session adventure. It could go a little bit longer or a little bit shorter, depending on the group and how many people are playing with it. But the important part of it is that you don't have to be a wild magic caster to actually take part of the adventure. You can go ahead and there are some wild magic aspects of it. And when I run the game in the Long Island Tabletop Expo, there are times when there could be wild surges that are released, and I'll be using the book for those wild surges.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah, it's way at the end.
I ran. I'll go through it slow in case people watching, so tell me where we can find this book. I think I made a banner up for it. This is
DriveThruRPG.
DriveThruRPG. I didn't put that in the banner, but it will be in the links down below.
Yeah.
We can also find you. We have this here. You are Dungeon Master Matt at dmplots.bluesky.social. You're a gamer, you're a dad, and you're a storyteller. Do you consider yourself a storyteller first with being a dungeon master? Do you enjoy the storytelling aspect of it?
Oh yeah.
Or do you enjoy the combat or the miniatures? Some players just want to fight. Some people want to tell the story.
I hate to do this because people think that like I don't want to take a side, but I'm like right in the middle in terms of I love both the mechanics of it, I love the creativity of it. When I run a game as a dungeon master, what I like to do is go ahead and actually run it rules as written up until the point where that gets in the way of a good story beat. Like if the players come up with something really creative and really interesting and really fun, I want to go ahead and reward that. So it's like, all right, you want to do that? That's great. Other times they might come with a creative answer, but it's going to be more fun if it doesn't work, because I mean, it doesn't work in the rules, but at the same time, it's like, okay, like let's think about how this is going to work out now. So it's been a lot of fun in terms of actually like seeing how the players come up with very creative ways, especially within the rules, to go ahead and actually get around certain issues or certain problems or challenges that they face.
Hey, as a game master, we have a Dungeon Master Evanson who runs our game, and he the best laid plans of mice and men. He constantly plans stuff out, and then we're just like, we're doing this. He's like, okay, and he goes with it. We have fun, but some of the stuff we come up with, it's just like, really, guys, like, that's the way you want to go. So
we had a. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was like, I had one adventure I was running with my friends, and this is the group that I've been playing with for like 6 years. So like I did a campaign with them where we went from level 1 to level 20 with their characters, which was great. But the one thing that we always still talk about is that at one point I had designed this dungeon, and there was this hole in the ground that was just there as sort of like a background note to myself in terms of like how the monsters got in there. And they ran across that, and they just focused on that. Yeah, it was like this. They didn't have to go past it. It was off to the side. They could just walk by it, but they got totally fixated on it.
They fixated on it, and they're like, "What's with the hole?" Or,
yes. Yeah. And so like they still talk about that in terms of like oh, if you need us to kill time, just put a hole in there, and we'll be fine. So
until you have to scream at them. it's just a hole. It's
Yeah.
nothing. It's like, I think you're lying. It's like, I swear I'm not lying. Let's just move on with the game, you know? So this is the adventure. Don't mind if I do. So now, are you running? How many characters are you going to run at Long Island Tabletop? Is it going to have a 6 at the table?
Yeah, I'm going to go up to 6. And that's actually like between levels 8 and 12. I will have pre-gen characters available, level 10, if anyone doesn't have any. The Saturday one, I'm happy to say, is all booked up. When I last checked, nice. That's already straightened out. I'm running another game. I'm running the same adventure, though, on Sunday at 2 p.m. And that one, I think, still has some slots in it, if anyone is interested.
Yeah, okay, we can find that. Once again, we can find it at Long Island Tabletop. You can go to their website. I'll put that link down below, too, and sign up. I'm actually running. So the YouTube channel, we were focusing on all general gaming, but, my buddy Scott, who also helps me run all this and is part of Dark Alchemy, we said, let's just focus on D&D. It's the one thing we love. It's the one thing we always come back to. And let's, do interviews with Dungeon Masters. There's plenty of D&D content. It's something we're always talking about. But I already signed up to run Call of Cthulhu. So I'm going to run 2 sessions of Call of Cthulhu this year. For the last time, it's a one-shot called The Lightless Beacon, where you go on a shipwreck and you end up at a lighthouse, and it's a dark and stormy night, and it's still dangerous. But what I got to say is, last year we did 1 D&D and we did 1 Cthulhu, and it's actually better to run just the same thing twice, because you have all the books, and all the printouts, everything's in one box, and it just makes it easier than to switch back and forth, because we went from D&D and having those miniatures maps to Cthulhu, and that was a challenge, having to kind of switch your brain over even. So I think it's good that we're running the same thing.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Is like, I can go ahead and run another one, because I'll have, like you said, I'm going to have some miniatures available. I'll have it's just some basic maps out there. But this way, on Sunday, also it'll be fresh in the mind. I'll be ready to go for a second run.
Exactly. I will give you some advice if this is the first time you're running at a convention, is just be aware of the time. I was running last year Dungeons & Dragons. It was called the Daggerdale Food Festival, where because we 3D printed miniatures, which are food monsters. There was a cheeseburger lord, and there was a what's it called, a taco ninja, and a donut wizard, and a French fry necromancer. So the characters go to the food festival, they get involved in it, some magic goes bad, and all the food turns into monsters, and they have to figure out how to save the townspeople. And it's good for younger players too, because you're killing food and you're not actually stabbing people.
Oh yeah.
But again, you got to watch the fixation, and then you got 3 hours. That's 3 or 4 scenes. It was, for me, it was the food festival. They explore a little bit. They actually can enter the contest. The monsters pop out. They save maybe 2 or 3 different villages and little different mini scenes, and then they have to find the big bad guy and kind of stop him. And they actually stopped him in a different way. They actually negotiated a little bit. They just want to kill him. I had the donut wizard as a bad guy, but I realized it was going to be too much fighting, so I turned him to a good guy. He's like, I need your help. I'm like, oh, let's help the donut wizard, because he's got a big donut head. It was pretty funny. So just watch the time.
Yeah, and I actually that's like what you just said. That's great. That's a great DM trait to have, is to be able to change it up on the fly when you realize that you're that you're running out of time. So I have the 2 things I want to do. The first one is I want to actually have a small clock or put on my phone, so I'm aware of the time. And the second thing is that I'm going to have some backup plans in terms of, because if they are having a lot of fun in the beginning, they're getting into the whole idea behind the adventure is that there's a wild mage that's gone missing by the name of Devin the Disheveled. And when they go out to find them, they're going to find out that there's now a lighthouse in the middle of a forest, which doesn't seem to make any sense. So
it doesn't make sense.
They can go ahead and they can take their time exploring around that. But then there's going to be some parts of the adventure that I can either condense or skip entirely, depending on how we're doing for time.
Excuse me. Yeah, I think that's the important key there is you have that timer running. And the reason I asked about what level is, 10th level, the character's pretty powerful. They got some big spells. But what they can do takes time. So, the one fighter could attack, action surge, special weapon, bonus action, reaction, and then you turn around. Oh, this guy's been rolling dice for 2 or 3 minutes, and now you have 5 of the people to go. And it might take some time to go through. We did a level 5, I think, 4 or 5, and it was pretty good. It was low enough that it seemed dangerous, and but yeah, more power to you. I look forward to stuff like
that. Well, I'm definitely going to keep that in mind. That's a really good point, because I have run this before. like
Well, you
before
wrote the adventure, so that helps. You have it, you know it. You wrote it.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, but
Yeah.
also like you said, is like that's a really good point to keep in mind. It's just that just the mechanics of the higher level characters going through, you know, my hope is that the battles will probably be like around 2 rounds or so, because there's gonna be a lot going on there. 2 to 3 rounds is usually like a good rule of thumb for that.
We have a question from the audience. That's DM Evanson. Who did the art for your book? We'll add that back to the stage, and let's see if we can find some slideshows.
There's a number of people who have contributed to it. I actually had them all listed out in the front. That was me, which is why it's not that great. There's like what I found out as I was doing this
is that oil or acrylic or watercolor? What did you do?
No, this is actually digital. I went ahead and I was using like some various different reference sources, and then I was using the Photoshop oil paintbrush to go ahead and actually work with that. But like that one right there, I mean, I couldn't tell you the name of it offhand, unfortunately. Yep. But like they're all listed in the front. A few of them are custom made. Like that one was custom made. That one right there was custom made. A few of them were licensed. That they were actually licensed for use in the book. There is one though that is my favorite. If you scroll like all the way to the very front, it's the one, and I wish I remember the exact name of the guy who did this one. It's the one with the gazebo coming out of the ground, because I had reached out to this one guy who did these wonderful pencils, and he had and I wanted to basically do something that was a callback to that famous thing of like I attacked the gazebo and that approach. So I told him I basically wanted like a gazebo to appear between the wizard and the dragon right there, and he came up with the idea that actually had hands climbing out of like this pit. And I just thought that was fantastic. So that's one of my favorite piece on that one right there.
Well, when you do a Kickstarter, and nowadays, maybe this was right before AI art, AI art's getting a lot better and better. When you do a Kickstarter, you want, as somebody buying a Kickstarter, I feel like you want to support real art. Magic the Gathering had this issue where they made a commitment to not use AI art and actually use real artists. And, not that it feels like AI art's cheating, but you want to support the artists, especially if you're doing a Kickstarter. So that's definitely gonna be more of a selling point moving forward, that you use real artists in a Dungeons and Dragons book like this, right?
Yeah, and another thing too that I found personally, like there's times when I found AI art, especially if you're doing it for your campaign, you want to knock something out quickly. Like that's all fine. For things like this though, what I found that the biggest drawback that AI art has, number one, is a lot of people tend to let the AI art look take precedent. Like like people can tell when something's made out of AI art because it all kind of looks the same in terms of how it's built. But also you have a really hard time getting very specific. Like if I asked for AI art to do something like this at the current state, it would not be able to do this.
It would be all over the place. I agree with that. So I'm glad you. Well, I mean, like I said, it's probably pre-AR, but I'm glad you supported the current artists, and you have all these different cool things. Is this a real photograph here? That looks like a real.
That was the basis. That was based on a photograph. Yeah, but then I added a various elements to it, and I was using the Photoshop oil paintbrush. Again, the parts that in the art pieces in this book that look the worst are mine. So I'm happy to take that on the table.
Yeah, I like that. And I do some photography myself, so I'm good with using photography and then photoshopping it, especially if you create the scene where somebody dresses up, maybe or even cosplays, you could call it, and then use cosplay a wizard, and then you put that in the book with some digital art or kind of digitize it. I think that's really cool. Can you tell us how the Kickstarter went and any kind of experience with that?
It was great. It was about so it started off. Like I said, I had already written up a bunch of stuff for this book, and so when I went to it, I was talking to a friend of mine who actually was working on a Kickstarter for himself, and a couple of my friends actually have gone through Kickstarters, and so they gave me a lot of good advice for it. The main one being you want to go ahead and give yourself around 6 to 4 weeks to prepare the campaign, to make sure that's all set up. I cut together a trailer for it, a video trailer. I wrote up the information on the Kickstarter page itself. The Kickstarter lasted for 4 weeks. And I wasn't asking for a lot of money, so that was good. I was just saying hey, for those of you who remember the Wild Magic, enjoyed it, here's something I want to put together. And I think I got funded within 2 or 3 weeks. So before the end of the Kickstarter, I got funded, and I even got a little bit further. Like I said, I put in that stretch goal. But one thing I will say though is that if you are going to be doing a Kickstarter, especially for something along supplements or rule books, people love the physical copy. Originally, it was just going to be a PDF.
Yeah,
and I had a couple people reach out to me and said, "Hey, I'd love to give you more money. Like if you do this as a PDF, I'll gladly put in more money for this thing." And so, or as a printed book, I should say.
This is what's it called? This is the official one, from a thing. But people want to have a book, something hardcover or soft cover that they can grab and they can put on their shelf. And I agree with that. I went to Adepticon and I did like a little interview with a guy who did Tavern Tales, and it was a bunch of mini adventures, and he did a good job. Or he and she. It was a couple. They did a good job of creating a hardcover book with good artwork, good maps, a bunch of different characters in it, some new items, some new spells, and I think it was $50. But these books are also about $50. And if you're a gamer, you're like, okay, if that's going on my shelf, it looks good. You don't mind spending a few extra dollars.
Yeah, I think there was because I didn't even really strongly advertise this campaign, that kind of stuff. I put out some feelers here and there, and I posted basically where I could do it for free. But I was still just through word of mouth and through those things, I was able to go ahead and get more than enough people. Again, I think I had around 150 to 200 backers total that came into it. And a lot of them were on the lower level, but that was fine. That's all I needed.
Makes you feel good to have some acknowledgement that what you wrote is good. So was the book? How far along with the book were you before the Kickstarter? Like how much pre-writing, pre-planning went into it? Do you do the book first? Do you do the Kickstarter first? Because you want to by a certain date.
I did the book first because this is something I was very passionate about. It was like a passion project of mine. So I was already writing this up, and I was like, I could probably turn this thing into an actual book if I could actually have a little bit more money to go ahead and cover some of the art in there.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, okay, you know what? I think I had the book probably around 3/4 of the way done, if not more.
Okay. That's good to know.
And a lot of it was also the what do you call it? The wild surge tables. But the nice thing with them not being finished, that was a perfect thing to offer for the tier subscribers.
Yeah. And it's amazing that people actually paid more money to put their own idea in there. They're helping you, right?
Oh yeah,
but they get their thing in there, and then I did look at the end of the book, and it had or maybe the beginning, because I wanted to see who wrote it or how long it took. There was a huge list of people, and I'm like, wow, all these people helped out and play tested, and those are all the people who contributed then, right? With the backers.
Yeah,
because there must be 100 just in the back of that book.
Oh yeah, it's in the back of the book, and there were people who the different tiers. It was you had your wild magic surges, you had wild magic items. One person actually had an NPC that was officially created and put into the book, and included with that was custom art for that as well.
Oh, cool.
So those kind of things, I think people enjoy that kind of stuff. They enjoy going ahead and be able to add something to another person's work. They love the idea of collaboration. And so I was very glad that there are enough people around there like me who are willing to go ahead and pitch in on this.
Yeah. So some of your items are a little bit crazy too. There was the artist ink where depending how many. So you're actually painting in the air a creature. I think the highest level creature takes half an hour. A quick one might take a minute. So you're in a dungeon. Quick, we need an owl to scout. Quick, paint an owl in the air. Okay, cover me. I'm painting in the air, and it was kind of a way to around summoning a familiar, right?
Yeah, and that was one of the backers. That was one of the backers' ideas.
Cool. Yeah. In our campaign, Dave saying he'd love to see. Oh, let me try this. I'm going to show this. This is my friend DM Evanson. So we're still learning StreamYard here, Matt, and I can pop stuff up. I guess he's watching me on Twitch, which is nice because it's a good test to see what comments I can see on the side here. So he'd like to see all names. So Dave, I bought the book, and I'll make sure you can take a look at it. And it was only $7, I think, on the PDF copy.
PDF, yeah. The PDF was deliberately on the cheaper side because that way, I'm more interested in getting out there. The printed book is more expensive, but that's just because you have to actually pay for the cost of printing the book. So that's the downside.
I totally get that. I didn't have time to order the big book, but I said, I'm talking to Matt.
Yeah.
I'm happy you're on. I appreciate your support coming on the channel.
I had a laugh.
I was buy the book and take a look at it.
Yeah, I had a laugh too because I was telling my friends just a couple days ago that when you were showing it earlier, the wild magic that's in the current 2024 book, they actually have I think that's a halfling that they have that's casting the wild magic, and on my cover it's a gnome. That's one of the characters is. So it's very. I like to think that maybe they were a little bit inspired. They weren't, of course. But
we're talking about the cover of the book.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That's Maladwa Detonation. That's one of my original wild mages. So
okay, so let's take a look at that and let's remove it and let's see if I hate to say that there's this company called G Dub. They're pretty good about kind of say grabbing ideas from other people. So let's see if I have the let's add that to the stage. So we have so you said it was at the beginning. Oh, is this it here? The wild magic
right there.
sorcery?
Yeah. So that just kind of reminded me a little bit of Maladwa, and I was like, yeah, I could see it.
It's totally an odd choice that they picked that, but maybe you were very inspiring to him, Matt.
I would say like that's the delusion I like to believe, anyways.
So. Well, I believe it. So there might be an expansion for this eventually. You might do another.
Yeah. What I love to do is I love to do like a an updated version for 2024. They went ahead and they changed up a number of the rules. I will say that with the latest Wild Magic, I'm interested in playing a little bit with their rules, because one thing that they did do that they didn't in the beginning, they made it a lot easier to have wild surges happen now, which I think is fantastic. If you're playing a wild mage, you want those wild surges, and that's the whole reason behind it. So. They made it much easier, so I think that's great. But the other thing I wanted to do with it is like this is something that people had mentioned in the people who had backed it, is that I would love to go ahead and actually do a subclass for each class. Like you had actually I think it was Tasha's, you had like the barbarian could actually use like wild magic. So I'd love to go ahead and actually add subclasses for all of the characters, not just those 4 that I had originally.
Yeah. A wild magic rogue. I can see a wild magic bard. There was a book back in the day. I'm gonna what's it called? Tell you how old I am, age myself. Alan Dean Foster wrote a book called Spellsinger, and
I've heard of that. Yeah,
there's a bard. I think Jonathan Thomas Merriweather, and he was a musician in 1980s, and he gets sucked into this world, and he can sing and cast spells with this thing. But his spells were just, it was all over the place. He had like a Colonel Wizard teaching him, and he was a spell singer. And I don't know. I grew up on those books. I thought they were great. But I would love to see a wild magic bard where the different instruments are just doing kind of crazy stuff.
Oh yeah,
maybe altering reality or creating illusions. So when you decide to do that Kickstarter at some point, or when it goes live, then come back on the channel. We're trying to grow the following. It's getting bigger slowly, and then Absolutely. we could definitely talk about that. Let me see. I think I have a little banner here. Do I make a banner? Oh, Adventurers Wanted. Subscribe today. So if you're watching and you're not subscribed, click that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. That means we can get a little award or something from YouTube. I don't know. They say try to get 1,000. So we're almost at 260 or 250. But yeah, we're going to be giving away a free owlbear cheeb at Long Island Tabletop. If you're a subscriber and you come back to the table, I think we printed 80 or 100 of them. So you can subscribe at the table. We'll be selling D&D miniatures at Long Island Tabletop. This weekend, April 5th and 6th, I'll be running Call of Cthulhu, the Lightless Beacon. And I'll get some credit for that because I'm an official cultist of Cthulhu, which is Chaosium's. You can sign up, and every time you run, they give you like some store credit. And you get like
awesome. I am really looking forward to this expo for things like that as well, because I have not had a chance to go. I'm going to seek you out and see what the miniatures look like, because I have not bought miniatures at a convention for ages. I've not bought dice at a convention for ages. So I'm really looking forward to
dice too, if you like it. Yeah. Oh, so that's actually a good question for you, Matt. When you run the game, what kind of maps you use, miniatures, is there anything there? Is it all theater of the mind? It's fine too.
When we run the game,
we like to have a lot of maps and miniatures ourselves.
When we run the game for the expo, it's going to be maps and miniatures. I will have, I'm getting some, and I just ordered some specific miniatures for like the pre-gens to try to make sure that like I can match them up properly. If there might be one or two where they have to leave a little bit of imagination that like, okay, this halfling barbarian is actually like your fighter or whatever. But yeah, I've done theater in the mind before too, and that's a lot of fun. But I do find that for the combat especially, it helps to speed things up a little bit if you have the map there, because then the players, when it's not their turn, they can look at the map and they can say like, okay, I can move this many squares and I can move over here, so they can kind of work out some of those things without having to ask you the questions.
Yeah, I think there's different subsets of people. So you have some people who love combat, They want it, and they want to see the miniatures. They want it. They want to count each box 5, 10, 15. I got to them, and I swing, and then, or I miss these step and tell. Well, people want to do that, and that's great. And there are other people who want to actually have the interaction. So it's something for everybody. And when you're running at a convention, if you have a little bit each at it, it's awesome. But when the players sit down and they see miniatures and like maybe a building or a little terrain out, they're like, "Oh, I picked the right table. This is awesome." They get excited, which is nice too. So. A parting question. I really should make a list of questions to ask, in the sense that I should ask the same questions. We went over dungeon mastering, we went over your Kickstarter. As a player, favorite character and or kind of favorite moment in one of your games.
Okay, well, as a player, favorite character probably still has to be my first Wild Magic mage, Backfire Metalmite from 2nd edition.
Okay, he died. Wow. Going back.
He died like twice, but he kept reincarnating, so it was fine. It was fine.
So he died a hero. Like,
yeah, exactly. For favorite moments, it's hard to pick out because there's just, like I said, so many moments. Like even every night, I think I will say, not from a player side, but from a DM side, it was when I was just DMing for my two friends. We were the only ones that could get together for that night, and it was just a one shot where they went to like a Fae festival, and it was just between those two characters, and I had a whole bunch of stalls set up that were like different types of skill checks, but the interactions with them and the people that worked at the fair and the roles that we're making, my wife complained that I was laughing too hard from the other room. Like we had such a fun time that night. There was one combat, and that was really sort of like just to cap it off, but the whole night it was just us just like telling the story back and forth with these crazy characters and just laughing about it.
Well, that's what it's about. This is an ancient tradition going back, to the beginning of our evolution. Sit around a fire and tell stories, right? And it's a tradition, oral tradition. And now it's kind of modern. You sit around a table and you laugh with friends, and it's escape from, our real world, which has its own problems. And I'd rather just focus on the fantasy world and have fun with the friends.
Exactly.
All right, Matt, anything else you want to leave us with? Otherwise, I'm going to end it. And
no, like I said, if you're interested in playing, 2 p.m. Sunday, I believe there are still states available. It's free once you get in with your admission. So go ahead and sign up. Love to see you there. Definitely going to try to seek out you, Roy, and your stuff, and looking forward to seeing that. Are you there?
We're on Slack also, so I can reach out. And if your crew ever wants to play some Cthulhu, I'd be happy to run the Lightless Beacon for you guys. It's a 4-hour one shot. We can get you and whoever wants to try it. After the convention, that's kind of something fun. And then we'll definitely talk and chat at the convention.
I haven't played Cthulhu once a long time ago, and I'd love to try it again because I love that madness mechanic. So I would definitely look forward to taking you up on that.
Sounds good. We can find you on the Substack here. I don't even know what a Substack is, but you said you have it. I guess
Substack is basically like a blog / mailing list kind of thing. So that stuff, I'll tell you, that's more of like a general blog. I try to make it humorous, but not my Blue Sky. I have more stuff. My Blue Sky social, I have more stuff about like DMing and stuff in there.
Okay, and then the last thing, which I didn't put this banner up here. Looking to play a TTRPG, check out my listing here. This will be down below. Are you running online or in person through this company?
So for those that are interested, Startplaying.games started up a few years ago, but basically it is for lack of a better term, a middleman between connecting players online with DMs online, either for free or paid. And the nice thing about that is that then you can reach out to a lot more people. They have a lot of games on there at all hours, all times. So like if you're looking for a game, I would recommend signing up and take a look and see what might be of interest to you.
Okay, sounds good. And we can find you on there also if they click that link, and they can find you and maybe play an online game with you. Sounds good. Well, I'll let you get back to organizing for this convention. I know it's you plan for months, and all of a sudden, like 4 days left, and you're like, oh my God, I got stuff to do, right? And I appreciate the time, and we'll talk soon, and I'll see you at the convention, sir.
All right, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
All right, let me see. I'm going to click on please subscribe, and then let's see if I can figure out how to do this little outro. I'm going to hit the outro. I'm going to end the stream. Okay, thanks, Matt. I'll talk to you.
All right, thanks a lot.